I am the Fuzz, and I hope to entertain you. So I've put together a little list of cards that I think essentially will eventually have to be changed or nerfed in some ways. Because just of the way they are designed, because of their scope, because of consideration for future cards, so on and so forth. So, here they are. We're going to go over all of them. Now, as we go over them, keep in mind that some of these cards are bigger offenders than others. And so, they are the bigger priority for changes, whereas some of the other ones, you could kind of play around and just design around without risking them being overpowered. So without further ado, let's just kick it right off. Try Angelica. So this one is pretty simple. Right now what's holding this card back is the fact that the angel selection is very, very poor. Well, we have 3 angels. That's it. And while the Guardian is good, and Triel is good, the Protector is not very good. You have to run them because that's all you have. But any future angels give the Triangelica more and more options, not only by being able to fill your deck with more angels, thereby making the hero power better, but also making it easier to just have more angels on the board. It is especially important if these angels were to be cheaper in cost, because right now all 3 of them are pretty expensive cards. But let's say if they make an angel that's maybe a little cheaper, Triangelica could suddenly become a lot easier to achieve. Now, whether or not future angels will make this easier or harder, I think this card should just be redesigned, simply because the idea of just instantly winning the game with a hero power is not very exciting. I would rather that this hero power was cheaper with lower requirements, but rather than like winning the game, it just gave you a big advantage of some kind, like either a lot of life, a lot of card draw, or whatever. But not an instant win. Anyways, we move on. We've got the Path of Transcendence. So, this card's been making a lot of waves, especially with the Elven Hermelian shenanigans. The problem with this card is very simple. It's that you are able to have a big board at the start of your turn with buffs, able to attack. And that's a problem. And it's not just because of elves. Hermelian definitely makes this more pronounced, because Hermelian really wants to have a full board so that he can do double damage. The simple solution for this card is to only allow you to bring stuff back at the start of your turn, but when you bring stuff back, they are not exhausted. So they can like block and stuff. Or hell, you can bring it back anytime, but only on your turn, so that you avoid that end of turn, everything comes back thing, because that's really all it's being used for, and it's leading to some rather not very fun games, is all I'm gonna say. I like Path. I hope it sticks around. I just hope it's less obnoxious and more awesome. Moving on, Thaumic Reflector. So this is one of the bigger offenders, mainly because basically it works with every spell, right? And so every spell that's added into the game has the potential to be doubled by Reflector, and so open for abuse. This is especially important for any wisdom spells. See, right now the wisdom spells are not really that good, or they don't really benefit from doubling up so much. Yeah, you can double up on the card draw. Doubling Flash Freeze is pretty good, but other than that, no one really cares. Usually if you were abusing this card, it is with Word of Grace or Word of Pain or Dragonfire or something. But if we add any more cards like that, especially cheap spells that draw cards, reflecting those will be really good. Like, right now, if Word of Knowledge, which is the wisdom word of card, wasn't complete trash, it might be really overpowered. But it's just something to think about. I don't actually think Reflector is that big of an issue, but every spell will have to kind of go through the Reflector check. Am I breaking this card? We'll have to see. Miss Jnana. So, she's a very interesting hero, because we have seen 2 shades of her. We've seen her be kind of whatever, which is what she is now, And we've seen just how ridiculous she can be if she has the time. See, back when, for the short period of time we had 25 life total instead of 20, and her hero power cost 1 instead of 2, Jnana was extremely good because not only did you have more time to do the shenanigans because you had more life, but also you could start it 1 turn early. So the draw power of this hero was just absolutely ridiculous. And I feel like this hero power is like right on the border of being overpowered, but it isn't right now because the meta is really aggressive and Neva just doesn't have that much time. But as the game goes on, her hero power becomes more and more ridiculous. But I don't really know how to change this. One thing that's been suggested is just limit the card draw to like maybe 3 creatures or something. Because you see, eventually, nature's gonna get like control cards, right? I hope at least, so that are supposed to work with this hero power. Because right now the control nature cards are just not very good. Ancient Tran is, it's a nice card, I guess, but other than that, Sun Chaser, alright, I guess, but there aren't really any really big powerful cards in nature that you would want to use with this. So, Neva, you just stay right where you are. Try not to be too broken. Oh well. Moving on. Jnana! Oh my goodness. Everybody's favorite elf, isn't it? Isn't she just adorable? Especially in the way how she gives the aggressive deck unlimited card draw. It's truly something. So, what's the idea with this one? Elves, right? I don't know if there's any elves planned to be released, considering how many there already are in the game. But if there are, well, that's more food for Jnana, right? Every elf can be played with Jnana. See, eventually we could reach a stage where you have enough really good elves where your entire deck is nothing but elves and maybe some select spells. I mean, hell, you already kind of have a deck full of elves. Not quite, because there aren't enough like really good ones, especially now that the elf commander has been hit. But in the future, if there are any, Jnana could easily just become the all-you-can-eat free elf buffet off the top of your deck. I mean, the card is causing some issues right now, but just giving elves way too much easy value. But it can only get worse in the future. I like you, Jnana, but you are increasing the population of elves in the meta, and that I don't like. Burning Rage. So this is the big one, right? This is the card that is most likely to just get out of control of all of these cards on the list. And it's really simple. Every rage spell that's made makes this card much better. What's holding it back right now from being insane is the fact that the rage spells just kind of aren't great. Word of Fire is like the one good one. Fireball is okay. Fire Blast is alright, but still somewhat pricey. But just imagine if a new spell was added that cost 1 mana, and let's say it deals 2 damage to a minion. So it's kind of like Noxious Fumes for 1 mana. It would be crazy with this card, because you could just play it, kill a minion for 1 mana, and cycle. You could actually fill your deck with these easy, cheap draw spells. You could just take out Fireball, put that in instead, and it would make Burning Rage completely insane. I think developers, I know the developers have acknowledged this, that this card will definitely need a change before the expansion, because we want to give Rage like good spells, right? But, well, we don't want to overpower this card. I don't know what exactly they're going to do. Whether they'll be willing to go back to dealing 2 damage, or just maybe rework it slightly. I'm not sure. Maybe what they could do is, every time you play a Rage spell, it gets 1 energy or something, and then for every 2 energy, you can remove 2 energy to draw a card. So you only get a card every other Rage spell. Something like that. Maybe they'll be okay. Moving on, Offering Yard Priest. So, this guy is absolutely crazy, right? You think it's basically Power Lust Incarnate levels of crazy. Not quite, a little bit less. But the reason why this guy isn't so obscene is because he only works if you have a lot of totems. Well, you can only have a lot of totems if you're running shamans. The thing is, shamans just kind of suck. Because, you know, he is great, but of the other shamans, there's only like 2 other that are okay, and the other ones are trash. So this guy is held back by the fact that his own tribe is filled with basically bad cards. But if the shaman lineup were to be reinforced with some new cards, this guy would lead the way for a ridiculous shamanic. Because if you combine him with a totem of swiftness, you could easily have something like a 9/9 with swift for 2 mana. That's pretty good. So I actually think this card is probably overpowered, but you don't really see it right now because the whole tribe is kind of just weak. Like, if this guy wasn't in the game, then shamans would just be a complete joke. I mean, actually, if you remember, before that, this used to be called Flamebringer Shaman, and it was a 1/3 with 1 speed with an effect where he comes into play, he deals damage based on how many totems are in your graveyard, or how many shamans are in your graveyard, one of the two. So it was basically mostly crappy, and since most of the other shamans were crappy, the whole thing was crappy. But eventually, I think Mr. Yard Priest will need to be reworked a little bit, because he's a little bit too dangerous of a creature. Just a little bit. Especially if we get, like, more totems as well. You'll be able to get more ways for him to get bigger. Because right now, there's only 12 totems, and you don't really want to run all 12. Generally, he won't get bigger than, like, 10-10, maybe 11-11. If you got more good totems, he could get a lot bigger than that. With Swift, easy lethal with just 2 of them. Moving on. Disciple of Zash. This is more like a minor thingy. The whole thing about Disciple is that he makes 1 health creatures useless because he just kills them instantly for free. The funny thing is, you don't really see him play that much because of another card that does the same thing, but is much more obnoxious than him, and is also on this list. But still, 1 damage to something every turn on the support row is pretty strong, and that in itself doesn't have to be a problem. If we get some other support creatures that maybe give something 1 health, that'd be interesting. Some ways to reinforce your creatures so that this isn't as big of a deal. Gnome Surgent. This guy's pretty fun. Searching out implants from your deck is really, really cool. Right now, it's not really that big of a deal because the implants, and by that I mean Overcharger, because that's really the only implant. It's not that big of a deal. You have to pay 2 mana for him, and if you pay 2 more mana, you get an Overcharger. The thing is, if you ever want to make any better implants, you basically can't, because he would be completely broken. If say there was some implant that cost like 4 mana, 3 levels, and it's like a ridiculous effect, plus 5/5, deadly, unstoppable, lifebound, I don't know, something like that. This guy, nah, 2 mana, you can have it, no problem. So yeah, obviously that would be an issue. One way to work around that is to make it only work on level 2 or lower implants. So if they do want to make a really, really big one, they can still do that without making this card broken. I do hope we get more implants, and I hope they're not all in Dominion. Give somebody else some implants, man. Blood-Seeking Mutant. So that's the other card I was talking about that makes 1 health creatures basically suck ass because he feeds on them and gets bigger. Unlike the Disciple, he's much more obnoxious in this and keeps growing. So I don't actually know what to do about this guy. In this form, he's mostly tolerable, but I don't like the idea of 1 health creatures being liabilities, which right now they are, because, well, yeah. So, actually, I don't know, really. You'd have to just rework the effect, and I'm not entirely convinced that devs are going to want to do that. We'll have to see how the future unfolds. Maybe just don't make 1 health creatures that are valuable. Fae of Charm, give her 2 health, you know what I'm saying, that sort of thing. Sanctum of the Void. I've started to really kind of dislike this card, even though I use it a lot, just because it's ridiculously powerful. It's rechargeable removal for only 2 mana, and it's so strong that even aggressive corruption decks are including it, because they go to 3 levels, you know, for Consume Spirit, sometimes Succubus, and why not throw this in? It's really amazing, and it almost makes the Infernal Tribute card kind of crappy, because that card costs 5 mana to remove 2 creatures. This costs 2 mana to remove 1 creature, and it's rechargeable. So yeah, it's ridiculously powerful control mechanism, and I think it's a little too good. This isn't even a case of, hey, I think this should be changed in the future. I think this is just too strong now. But still, in the future, this kind of makes... I was going to say it makes removal redundant, but the thing is, with this, the removal potential is just ridiculous, because every 3rd turn, you get a free kill. And I think that's a little bit too good. Dark Portal, my favorite card in the game. So Dark Portal works with demons. It's very similar concept as Burning Rage, but a much more extreme version where you gain much more power, but at a much larger cost, because you take a lot of damage every turn. Let's say over 5 turns, Burning Rage will only have done 5 damage to you. Portal, 15 damage. So this requires a lot more management and a lot more pressure, and that's what makes it so awesome. The thing is, the design restriction of this card has to do with any future demons, because, well, if you make any good demons, then they would become insane with Dark Portal. But this isn't that big of a deal, because you can just not give something a demon tag, right? Like, you can just make whatever creature you want, just don't give them a demon tag. But if you do make demons, if you do add demons to the game, keep in mind that they're going to be played with Dark Portal, and Dark Portal is going to make them cheaper and searchable. So, yeah. Like, just as an example, if the Herald of Despair, the guy who reduces energy on something, was a demon, damn, that'd be amazing. A searchable, cheap way to turn off Portal would be completely ridiculous for demons. But they made him a shaman, which is possibly the worst tribe they could have made him, because that has no synergy with shamans at all. I mean, they could have made him no tribe at all. Anyways, last card, OHRP. So, the idea is pretty obvious. She makes level 1 creatures bad. She is the reason why you should not make 4 mana level 1 creatures like Gigantodon, Zombie Giant, and the Griffin Rider. Not only are they badly costed, they instantly die to Harpy. Now, Harpy has the upside of keeping Powerlust Incarnate in check, a card which, by the way, would have been on this list, but isn't, because Powerlust Incarnate isn't a card that'll eventually become a problem. It is a problem right now, and has been since its very conception. The only reason it hasn't been that relevant is because, well, Harpy exists, and it just completely craps on it. But I don't think that's a great answer. Now, Harpy itself isn't necessarily that big of a problem, because in general, level 1 creatures should not be super valuable. They should just be like early game stuff, or some small utility things like Plague Vermin, or some early game beat sticks. You shouldn't lose because you couldn't play a level 1 creature. The emphasis, I feel, should be on the level 2s and 3s, because those are the interesting creatures, really. And the level 1 creatures, like poor Zombie Giant, unfortunately just serve no purpose at all, which is a bit of a shame. But hey. And also, yeah, Harpy keeps tombs at bay. Man, this Blood Witch Harpy is a lot of responsibilities on her shoulders. You could argue she's overpowered, but at the same time, she is keeping a lot of other things in check, and that's reasonable to me. So, anyways, that's the list I came up with. Again, Powerlust Incarnate isn't on the list because it's a problem now. You could extend the same thing to Runelet Incarnate, but Runelet Incarnate is kept at bay by the same thing that Powerlust is, and that is to say Harpy. I still kind of don't like the card. Anyways, thanks for listening. Let me know what you think in the comments. Is there a card that I missed? Is there a card that you think should be changed because it'll be overpowered in the future? Or maybe you think one of these cards isn't overpowered at all and doesn't really need to be changed. Let me know. And, well, we disconnected. Perfect timing. See you guys next time.